But why all this talk about death? It was difficult for me to understand why something lurking in the future should be a problem today. And no wonder. We've been trained to look only to our inheritance from the past for explanations of the present. It's a proven and powerful approach. Whether it's psychoanalysis trying to explain what we are by what happened to us in our infancy, or cosmology looking back at the Big Bang to understand what our universe is like today, we expect the past to hold all the answers.
Para todo, paz, fuerza.
But Silo turned it around, putting the emphasis on the future. Imagine someone with a difficult past who believes that tomorrow will be great. Compare them with someone with a wonderful past who believes that everything is falling apart. And for all of us, the future holds one certainty: it will end. And if meaning has to do with the future, what then? There's no meaning if everything ends in death. What do I have that can transcend death? My reputation, my children, the actions I put in motion, or... And it's these seemingly simple questions that Silo asks us to reflect on.
Do not let your life pass by without asking yourself, who am I? Do not let your life pass by without asking yourself, where am I going?
Sí.
For someone so focused on questions of death and transcendence, you might expect Silo to have a lot to say about God.
Yo lo que le digo es que él crea o no crea, perfecto. Me parece muy bien que crea o que no crea, me da igual. Pero que ese no es el tema para salir del mundo del sufrimiento y para crear un nuevo tipo de ser humano. Ese no es el tema. Eso es lo que le digo a la gente que cree. Que crea. Y si me dice que no cree, pues que no crea. Porque el tema es otro. El tema es otro. No es el tema de que cree en Dios o no cree en Dios. El tema es cómo soluciona sus problemas existenciales. Y lo existencial no se resuelve porque crea o no crea en Dios.
Our spirituality is not the spirituality of superstition. It is the spirituality that is awakened from its deep sleep to nurture the best aspirations of the human being.
Believers and atheists, mystics, scientists, artists, and social activists. In the wake of Silo's first public talk, a number of groups arose with their own particular interpretations of his teaching. Then in the 70s, representatives of different groups throughout the world gathered on a Greek island to study with Silo in more depth. And an organization known as the Community for Human Development began to form. And from that community, a wide range of activities. In this way, the humanist movement gradually took shape and spread as different people in different situations found common voice for the transforming personal experience they had encountered. The range of activity as varied as those people and the situations they lived, denouncing violence and injustice, working for literacy or public health in Asia, the Caribbean, and Africa, or organizing everything from social action to neighborhood newspapers or campaigns for better urban transit. In 1981, I joined some friends and accompanied Silo to a number of events in Europe and Asia. It seems to me that among all the extraordinary occurrences on that trip, two of the most extraordinary took place in Asia. The first was in India, on Mumbai's Chowpatty Beach. One of our companions on that tour was Bhatandra Ayappa, a retired engineer and teacher of yoga.
I remember very vividly the weather.
The weather was very bad, very bad. There was a warning that there's going to be a big cyclone and it will hit Bombay. In spite of that, we were able to gather 10,000 people at this spot.
We had there, huh? The stage there.
Exactly there.
In the midst of that chaos, despite the storm, after speeches and talks, Silo invited those who agreed with his message to stand. 10,000 people rose to their feet, and for many, something extraordinary happened. From this very internal experience, people drew varied conclusions, interpreting the experience in different ways, with consequences that continue to play out decades later. Mukul Desai lives a short walk from his shop in a middle-class Mumbai neighborhood. Every week for the last decade, members of his extended family gather for a meeting about Silo's message.
और अपना ध्यान अपने श्वासोश्वास के ऊपर हल्का और गहरा हो सके उतना आराम से और गहरा.
From the beginning, from the existence of man has to face pain and suffering. When we do these experiences, then it gives us the power to face the challenges that are created in day-to-day life.
Some Friday we discuss on current topics, we discuss for local problems, we discuss for our child development, we discuss for the education systems, we discuss for our personal life, family life. This makes our knowledge wider and wider, and global, and we transform this to our society.
Despite India's economic boom, poverty remains an enormous and extensive problem. It's not surprising then that these influences took another form in Nehru Nagar, one of the region's many slums. Shankar was born and still lives here with his parents, his wife, and his child. Inspired by Silo, he's helped transform this place.
Center started last 15 years. So many medical camps, so many campaigns, children education.
10 years ago, there were no street lights here. Now, because of the humanist movement, there are.
Our area, no lights.
So now there's light, there's anti-malarial campaign.
Yes.
It used to be that every year when the monsoon rains came, raw sewage would flood the houses. But they've resolved that problem as well. All of this forms only a small part of the activities they've organized here over the last decade.
This is Humanist Center. This last 10 years we are running.
So the idea is that they'll learn to sew and then they can actually get work sewing and earn some money and help support the family.
Getting 100 to 150 rupees. You can manage your family easily.
Rukaya Joshi is a professor of management and an important part of this project.
So focus of this center where I am associated is women and children.
It's very interesting that this man from the other side of the world, from so far away, touched you and
transformed me.
And it's not just individuals that were transformed.
People had lost faith in themselves in this area of Nehru Nagar. They had lost faith that any improvement can ever be done. But after we started the work and after the movement started doing their activities, now almost everybody has got real faith that things can happen, change can come.